Hey y'all, I don't suppose you remember just a week ago when I said this? I really feel like I need to be immediately starting an outline. I don't want to be drafting right now. I want to be answering these questions that I have about this new draft. So about that. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Just another struggling writer. The beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Y'all, I'm not gonna lie. I have had kind of a rough week. It is currently Friday, January 16th, and yeah, like I said, I just had a couple of days this week that were really tough on me. Strictly related to my day job, but they were very stressful to the point where on Wednesday I came home in tears because I was feeling a type of way. I'm not going to get into that, but the short of it is it really shook me, and I ended up having to use 2 back-to-back cheat days from my 90-day hard challenge, which is basically the only ones I have because I definitely need to use 3 when I go to Albuquerque in March. It is what it is. There was no way I was going to be able to force myself to read, write, go on a walk, any of it. I was truly like at my wit's end. I did briefly consider biting the bullet and resetting the 90-day hard challenge right then and there, but then it occurred to me that that would actually be taking the easy way out, because if I make it deep into this challenge and then fail a day, that would be the day that I would need to restart it. And by jumping the gun this early in the challenge, it just feels like giving myself a pass, and that's not really the intent of the challenge. The intent of the challenge is to be difficult. So I'm just gonna have to hope that nothing else like this comes up in the next, we're only on day 16, so 84 days, or that I can make the middle day of the Albuquerque trip work for me in terms of getting all of my stuff done. The Thursday and Saturday days of the trip, we will be on a bus from Albuquerque, so I do not anticipate being able to walk 5,000 steps on those days. That being said, on the Friday part of the day, we're going to be attending events, so I may not be able to get writing done either. So, like I said, it is what it is. Anyway, that's not really the point of this video. The mental hardship that I've been going through has also kind of tapped my patience a little bit with respect to where I'm at with Seekers of Empyrean, which is, of course, my Monster of the Week inspired urban fantasy about a young woman with a rare magical ability who is recruited by a secret government agency to hunt down and stop a growing threat to a magical community. I am trying to get better about using that logline in every video, so if you've heard it 1,000 times, just imagine how I feel saying it. Last week, I know I said that I really wanted to get into a new outline to account for the changes I am making, taking in the best parts of draft 1 and the best parts of draft 2. Although this third draft is going to more closely resemble draft 1, there are still elements of draft 2. Anyway, needless to say, there are changes. There are things that don't resemble either, and I thought would behoove me to put together a detailed outline. I even went through the trouble of updating my scene outline worksheets to accommodate some things that I thought would be helpful in really thinking deeply about these scenes and thinking deeply about this outline. Really impressed by Meredith's ability to outline and the way that she does it and how she's able to crank out a draft based on an outline. My outlining process by comparison is in its infancy and is not nearly as efficient. And that has borne out with this whole project and this cluster with draft 2. My logic was that if I can adapt the best parts of her process and marry them to what I think works for my process, that maybe I could go into draft 3 with not just a solid outline, but real confidence that it'll be the final and best version of the plot. But like I said, this week has just made me lose a little patience with not just the pace of this process, but also I'm starting to become less and less convinced of its efficiency. Something that I may have mentioned last week, I can't remember. I talked about it in clips that will once again not be used in this vlog, but essentially where I'm running into trouble are in the scenes or sequels that are not really action oriented. They're more like downbeats, like moments of pause. At times there's exposition or just transition through time, and I'm having trouble translating that into the outline. And while I could just say, okay, I'm not going to worry about it, I'll just skip it, the fact that I would feel compelled to has me questioning what the point of the rest of it is, which is silly, I know, but this is just how I'm feeling. Just come along with me on it. And then there's also the fact that I am out now on draft 3. The beginning and the ending are essentially the same in terms of like the action beats. And while there is some changes to the 25 to 55% marks, I feel comfortable enough with the skeleton that I do have that I don't know that I need to do another outline. And I'm also just like, I know writers obviously do multiple drafts, but do they do outlines of their new drafts? I truly don't know. All day today, I have just been thinking about how I really like to just not do the outline and get straight into drafting draft 3. And yet, as much as I want that, I have no concept of whether or not that's a good idea or not. So I was driving home today on a Friday, ahead of a weekend, and thinking about, do I really want to spend another weekend on this outline, or do I want to start my weekend by starting draft 3? And again, I truly don't know what the right answer is. And so I have made the kind of woo-woo decision to not make a decision and let the universe decide. This is my tarot deck that you guys have seen in many, many of my videos now, including my last vlog. But what you may not know about it is that this is the deck that I bought specifically for when I started working on Seekers of Empyrean, because I felt like it had the right vibe. If you've seen the cards in my past videos, you can kind of tell that it's got a more urban feel. I bought these specifically to help me better imagine or better get into the vibe of Seekers. And yes, in case you're wondering, I also have a deck for when I start Daughters of Necessity. I plan on using specific decks for specific projects going forward. The other thing is I am actually not what I would consider very experienced in tarot, despite the fact that I have been doing daily draws for myself for 5-6 years now. I can't remember, but it's been a long time. But they have been simple daily draws for myself. I've never done a spread. So I have found a really, really simple, easy to understand 3-card spread that I think will be perfect for this. It's literally for making an either or decision. I'm not sure if this is the smartest thing to do or the wisest thing to do, but I do believe in the tarot and trusting the universe and what it says. And I'm going to leave this choice of what I do next up to my deck. And if it says to carry on with the outline, I will carry on with the outline, because like I said, I feel in this weird nebulous space where I can't trust my own judgment. Like, one of my mottos that I got from one of my favorite books, Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, which is, some paths must be taken at speed. And it literally changed my life when I read it, and I have made several life-changing decisions based on it. Knowing that is a philosophy I stand by, I'm not really sure if I'm being entirely rational in wanting to just go straight into the draft, especially since I do feel some sort of comfort when I outline. It's just that right now it doesn't feel appropriate. It feels like busy work when I could be doing real work. So anyway, I am going to go ahead and do this little spread, and I will let you see all of it so you will know that I am not fudging. Here we go. So the first thing I do for a draw is I knock on the deck to clear out the energy from the previous draw. And because I am so nervous, I am knocking several times. I then start the process of the shuffle by doing a cut. I usually do 3 piles just because I like the number 9 and any multiples of 9, so I cut it into 3 piles. and then I shuffle the cards by placing them into 6 piles. I then pick up the piles in usually kind of a random order, whatever I feel like at the moment. Then I spread the cards and meditate over them, thinking about the question I want to ask before I make my draw. Sometimes it can take a while before I feel a card jump out at me. This first pull is for option A, which I decided would be continuing the outline. The second pull is for option B, which is starting the draft. I had some trouble pulling this card. It was a little sticky, so I decided to relay the deck for the last pull. The last draw is the advice that the universe is giving you. So if the first 2 cards are representative of the different choices and what their outcomes might be, the third is just what the universe thinks you should do. So first things first, I flip over option A, the outline, and got the 10 of Swords. This card represents betrayal, loss, painful endings, and deep-seated wounds. It also happened to be the same card I drew earlier today for my daily draw, which I thought was funny because all day I had been thinking about what I wanted to do in this choice, and I just found the connection between that debate I'd been having in my head coming out in the actual draw to make the decision itself. Then for option B, or starting the draft, I got the High Priestess, the cover of my little tarot deck. The High Priestess represents intuition and enlightenment and the divine feminine, but heavy on the intuition. It also was not lost on me that I drew the cover of the tarot deck that I bought specifically to use while writing Seekers of Empyrean. So she's kind of like the face of the tarot for this book. So it feels not like a coincidence. And then all that's left to do is find out what the universe suggests. And for that card, I have the Two of Pentacles. And the Two of Pentacles is all about balance, balancing time, balancing commitments, balancing your emotional needs versus other needs. And it really stresses the importance of keeping all the balls in the air and being really diligent about managing your time. I wondered briefly if this means I could do both, maybe start drafting but also continue the outline at the same time, or if by starting the draft, I am making a commitment and I would need to just manage my time very wisely. And so balancing time against wasting time, which I feel I might be doing with the outline, is also important. This draw was really enlightening. Really, really enlightening, and I think pretty definitive. I don't know about you guys, but that seems pretty definitive. I mean, like I said, I'm not an expert on tarot in terms of spreads, but I have been doing daily draws for many, many years now. So I feel like I know the individual cards fairly well. And this seems like a pretty clear message. So I guess I'm going straight into the draft. And the funny thing about the Two of Pentacles and about being aware of time and balancing your time is I actually went ahead and made a leap of faith the other day and contacted Brielle and booked her services for manuscript critique starting on May 1st. So in just 3.5 months, I need to have this manuscript ready to send over. And while that seems insane, just saying it out loud, considering I haven't even started the draft yet, I have always been someone who works better with outside pressure. Internal pressure, I have gotten better about lately, but nothing motivates me than having an external deadline. And I found this when I was writing semi-professionally for Scribd, which is now Everand. I was writing romance novellas. I think they were 45,000 words. I'd have to go back and look at my documents in 4 weeks. That was my turnaround time. I would get up to the last like 4 or 5 days and still have, like 20,000 words left to write, and I'd get it done. I never missed a deadline until the very last one, which I never ended up turning in because I emailed the editor and I was like, I am way too burnt out. I can't do it. But apart from that one, I never missed a deadline. So, but that being said, it was an external deadline. So I think it's important to give myself 15, 14, if you aren't counting today, extra days to get into this draft. What I think I'm going to do first is I am going to set up my Dabble document with my deadline of April 30th and my word count. I am going to be targeting 100,000 words. I do not want to go over. What would really be nice though is if I got it done earlier than April 30th so that I could give myself time to do some cleanup. For now, I'm just going to leave it as is, and I'll address cleanup once I get the critique back. So this has been affirming and I'm excited. I'm really nervous too. I'm really nervous. I was thinking about the changes that I was thinking of making to Arceli's personality and for her character arc. And I think I was maybe thinking too much in the extreme of making her really, really hardened. I want her to be kind of like unserious and someone who doesn't really commit to anything because her false belief is that no one's going to stick around anyway. So she doesn't take relationships seriously or commitment seriously, but I don't want her to be like bitchy for no reason. I still want her to be fun, but with this underlying false belief that no one will care about her enough to stick around, which then motivates her to want to act first and abandon them first or not commit or anyway. That's the main thing that I'm worried about. The other thing I have a little bit of concern about is the midpoint. I don't think where things stand right now that the midpoint is strong enough. And it's similar to the issue I had with draft 2, where there's just not enough distance or there's not enough plot to be shared between the pinch point and the midpoint. The midpoint, of course, is the moment where the protagonist goes from reacting to being proactive. The moment that I have currently envisioned is when Arceli starts to take things more seriously. Like I said, in the first part of the book, she's like, whatever, I'm just here to get paid and y'all recruited me out of my house when I never knew anything about you and I'm not going to stick around after this job is over. Whatever. There's a moment with the antagonist where she's like, oh shit, this is serious stuff and they are asking me to help make sure this serious stuff doesn't happen anymore. Does that sound like strong enough of a midpoint? But again, it's also kind of the same moment as the pinch point. Like in the skeleton outline, the pinch point is finding out that the antagonist has resurfaced, and so they go to the site where the antagonist was. The antagonist has already fled, but there is destruction. The pinch point is supposed to be at 37%, and this is why I was in such a major debate about whether or not I should continue with the outline. But I also was feeling like I was stuck in molasses because I was so hung up on other details. There is also something to be said where I feel like I'm gonna get more ideas once I'm in the draft. You guys just have to keep me on track. If you hear me talking about reintroducing an old B plot or making it more prevalent, just like whap me with a stick. I guess you could say I'm procrastinating because I'm nervous. So I'm going to put my cards away. I'm going to go get my computer. I'm going to turn on my new space heater because I'm cold. It's a long story, but basically my bedroom doesn't have HVAC right now because of reasons. The rest of the house is getting circulation. My bedroom and my bathroom and my closet are the only spaces in the house that have no circulation right now. So I bought a space heater for when I'm in here and working because I'm cold. So I'm going to get my computer. I'm going to turn my space heater on. I'm going to turn on some nice ambient music and I'm going to create my document. And who knows, I may even port over the entire first chapter and just edit it because I think the first chapter is pretty good. Maybe not. I'll reread it and see how much of it I'm going to keep. And I'm probably going to do the same thing that I did between drafts 1 and drafts 2, where I kept a running document of what I was copying over. It wasn't much between 1 and 2, but we'll see. This document would be anything I take from drafts 1 and 2. Alrighty, I think that's all the admin. Wow, this week has really taken a turn for the unexpected, hasn't it? But I think it's a good thing. I would love to know the science behind why the first chapter of any draft is so damn hard. So I am the better part of a way through a 48-minute sprint of what I intend to be a full ladder. And I cannot say with any truthfulness that I have done much writing, but I have done quite a bit of contemplating, fathoming as it were. One of my big concerns for this opening snapshot, like literally on the first page, is the voice, which, it's so hard to establish voice for your characters on the first page, but I have my own authorial voice that is coming through very, very strongly on this first page. And something that I was really concerned about is that while I like it, I don't know that it fits a modern setting, and B, Arceli Fonseca, my main character. And that has been niggling at me pretty much since the beginning. But when I wrote draft 1, I just went ahead and moved on because, it's draft 1. Don't worry about it. But then I copied most of it over and even improved on it in draft 2. And over the summer, I posted a video where I compared the changes I made to this first page between draft 1 and draft 2. And I got some really interesting feedback that I really appreciated and I wanted to incorporate into draft 3. So I went back and I looked at it, and I was trying to figure out how to take all of these suggestions and apply them in a way that I still felt fit what I was trying to get across. And I came to a very, very brave conclusion that maybe I should just rewrite this scene from scratch, or at least this opening snapshot. And so I wrote a first sentence that I like okay, but the truth is I really like my original one better. But I was having a lot of trouble reconciling my very, very strong authorial voice with Arceli's voice. And so just as a point of comparison, I clicked into a random scene later in the draft, of draft 2 in this case, just to see how they compare. So I'm going to read you 2 paragraphs, one from that opening page that I feel is very, very indicative of my authorial voice, and then I'll read you a paragraph from close to the midpoint, just for comparison's sake. This is the opening 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, just over 100 words. All things considered, the West Mesa Police Department has a pretty solid case that Arceli Fonseca committed arson. That's what the arresting officer called it anyway, as he placed the protesting, slightly drunk 24-year-old into the back of his squad car. This inauspicious event followed a perfunctory investigation which concluded Arceli had attempted to set off some illegal fireworks that promptly exploded upon ignition and set her neighbor's already half-dead tree ablaze. To be fair, she had climbed that tree and it did burst into flame shortly thereafter, but aside from that admittedly compelling evidence, there isn't any actual proof that Arceli ever possessed such a legal ordinance, so really, who's to say how the tree caught fire? A lot of those big words, I don't know that a 24-year-old modern woman would use. I do, but I am a wordsmith. So again, this just kind of it concerns me that if a editor or an agent were to read this, they'd be like, this doesn't sound like a 24-year-old woman in the modern era. And my concern is that in the absence of really getting into Arceli's head right here on the first page, it's just my voice coming out in the absence of hers. So I wanted to compare it to something much later in the draft where we are fully in Arceli's head. I would love to hear your thoughts on whether or not these things compare, right? So this next paragraph is from around the midpoint. With nothing left to contribute, Arceli spends the rest of the site survey standing around and sweating her ass off, occasionally fielding frowns from her fellow team members, which she shrugs off with acerbic disinterest. She can't bring herself to care that she's not pulling her weight right now, not when she's mentally formulating a stronger argument to bring to Agent Barker than she presented to Max. I'm gonna skip the next part for spoilers. Finally, after 4 hours of diligent interviews, a meticulous and thorough review of every square inch of the scene, and even a second request for spoilers, Agent Barker declares there is nothing more they can do on site, and the team troops back to their vehicles with significantly less verve than they started. Am I crazy, or does that sound the same? And again, I mean, it should. My voice should be part of this, but we are fully in Arceli's head now, and this is definitely her perspective, and she still has a similar voice. Would you agree? Or am I too close to it? What I'm getting at is, am I worrying about this for nothing? And second of all, do I need to be worried about it in draft 3? I did say that I want this draft to be relatively clean and ready for critique rather than loaded with early draft badness. But I'm now starting to think the voice isn't actually the problem. And maybe this first page and this first scene is actually fine, and I can just copy over most of it. The alternative first line that I came up with, just for comparison's sake, reads, if it weren't for the fact that the tree was already half dead when Arceli Fonseca got the, in hindsight, unbelievably stupid idea to spice up the block's 4th of July party, it probably wouldn't have caught on fire. I haven't gotten anything past that. I like that, and it also feels in Arceli's voice. I don't know. I think I'm overthinking it. Typical. Hey y'all, good morning. Well, it's almost noon, but still, hello. Last night was kind of fun, I'm not gonna lie to you. And I'm sure that's largely just because I am energized and excited to be drafting what I hope will be the final plot revision of this book. And also partially because this first chapter didn't need much rewriting, but it was fun. I had a really good time. And for evidence of that, look no further than the fact that I was up until 2:15 in the morning working on this first chapter. And that is not an indication that it was hard. It was just that I was committed to it and I wanted to do it and I did not want to leave it until the next day. And so even after my partner came to bed, I was still working on it. The last probably like 600 words could probably use another pass to tighten up, but I sat here and I did the entire chapter. So just to give you some stats, I wrote through my ladder sprint, which didn't really get started until like 11 o'clock, but through my ladder sprint, I wrote 1,818 words. That would have been plenty, really. But again, I wanted to finish the chapter. And so the chapter ended up being 2,479 words. I copied over from the second draft of those 2,400 words. Wow, that actually kind of surprises me. 1,500 of them were copied over. I thought it would be closer to 2,000, but I guess I did more rewriting than I thought. So obviously a big chunk of it. I don't expect this to be the case throughout the whole manuscript. This first chapter isn't changing much, didn't change much from the first one. It really is truly about just tightening things up. And the benefit of having two versions of this chapter meant that I could take the best from both. And I think that contributed to why it took so long. I'm pretty pleased with it. Like I said, towards the end, I knew I needed to be getting to bed, and I wasn't prepared to go paragraph by paragraph and analyze as closely as I was the first part. So I'm going to do that today. I did go through it a little bit, and then when I was done, I went through and I had a list of crutch words that I went through, and I just word finded and tried to make sure that those were eliminated. And anyway, so I think I like this process. Yes, it takes a long time. It was 4 hours, 3.5 hours to write 2,500 words, but again, I was editing through them. I was tightening it up. I was really closely reading them and making sure that it's getting across what I wanted to get across. I was eliminating like hedging words and making things really just clear and concise. Anyway, so I'm happy with it. So that was last night. It is now almost noon, of course, because I was up until almost 3 o'clock in the morning because I still needed to drink an entire bottle of water. So of course I slept in real late. It's almost noon. Today I've got some other things I do need to be doing. I do need to do homework. That's the biggest like cloud hanging over me right now. I would like to get 2/3 of it done today and then the rest tomorrow. So that's the big thing. I want to film a video. I guess that's really it if you think about it. And then of course, more writing. I would love to tackle chapter 2 today in its entirety. Let's see, chapter 2 in the second draft was 3,400 words. And in the first draft, it was even longer. So I would love to tackle this today. What I'd really love to do is 2 and 3. 3 is almost 2,400 words. I don't know that that's in the cards today just because this is going to require more rewriting than the first chapter. We'll see. Let's just say chapter 2 for right now. The first part of chapter 2 is going to be a brief moment of exposition where it reflects on Arceli's past and how she learned she had magic for the first time. I'm hoping not more than 800 words. The way that it was in draft 2 is there was part of the scene, this flashback of exposition, and then the rest of the scene. And I'm changing that because I'm not a fan, and I think it makes more sense to explore her past in the immediate moments after the reveal that she has magic. I'm going to move that flashback to the beginning of the chapter. It just makes more sense with the flow. So I'd like to get that done, and at least half of the main meaty part of the scene where the agents from the secret government agency have arrived to interrogate her. I would also really love to finish Ninth House this weekend. I am almost at the 50% mark, so I've really only got, let's see, where am I at now? Oh my gosh. There's so much errata at the back of this. 450 pages exactly. I'm at 221. We'll just see how it plays out. I've also got to take my son to a sleepover. I had to do groceries. I've got this big homework thing. That's my weekend. It's so funny. Before yesterday, my plans for this weekend were to get as much of this outline knocked out as possible, and now I'm literally in the draft. I'm so excited! Hey y'all, good morning. Technically, still morning. It is 11:56 on Sunday, and I fear I may have flown too close to the sun yesterday with my time management, or lack thereof, as the case may be. Look, the writing went really, really well. That mini exposition scene, I ended up adding, I was hoping to keep it under 800 words, ended up at 940, but I added a lot of crucial context that was missing before and that I think answered a question that readers would probably have. It wasn't necessarily a plot hole, but I do think readers might have had the question. And so by adding about 300 words, I feel like I really well answered that question while also sliding in a line or two that reinforces the character's arc and kind of where she is, her ground zero and where she's starting from at the beginning of the book. So that went really well. And then I spent the entire 48-minute sprint of the ladder over analyzing the first 3 or 4 paragraphs of the next scene. And I think most people would probably say, okay, that's too much, move on. I really was enjoying the process of really closely analyzing the lines and moving things around so that they connected better to one another. So it was really, really close line level editing. It made me remember that I love doing this. This is one of my favorite parts of the writing process is when you get into this part where you're really, really closely analyzing and looking at the specific words and what they mean, making sure you're setting the scene and all of that. I love this part. So I ended up with only just over 1,000 words for an entire ladder. But like I said, I think I did really good work, and it gives me a lot of hope that this draft is, even if the plot ends up not being complete, just because this is the third iteration and, you know, there still could be holes, the line level work is going to be really, really strong, which is what my goal was. My goal was to have a really nice clean draft. And I am still going through each scene as I complete it. I've completed 2, let's be honest, and I do intend to keep doing this going forward and eliminating like crutch words and filtering words and things like that. And like even in that 800, 900 word like exposition scene, that was helpful because I realized that I had used the word just 4 times in a paragraph and not as a stylistic choice. So it's definitely been really interesting, and I'm loving it so much. This has truly brought the joy back to this draft that I've been really struggling to find for a while, like 5 months, I would say. So I did the latter, and then I was like, oh crap, it's almost 6 o'clock. I better make dinner. I made dinner. I ate dinner. And then I was like, okay, it's now 7 o'clock. I still need to read, and I still need to walk, and I need to finish my water. I filled my water bottle, and I will say, I've been using this guy today. He is only 24 ounces instead of 30 ounces, so I do need to drink more, but it just makes it feel more approachable. 24 ounces, I don't know, it just feels like an easier amount to drink. So even though I am drinking more water, doing 4 of these in a day rather than 3 of the other one, I think is ideal. Anyway, so I filled my water bottle and I picked up Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and I was at page 220 of a 450 page book. My intention was to just read my 25 pages. Reader, I finished the book in 1 sitting. And if you recall, I am a pretty slow reader. I only read about 50 pages an hour. So doing the math, I finished at about midnight. I mean, it's been a while since I've binge read a book like that, and truly it is a credit to the book that everything past the midpoint was just reveal, hook, reveal, plot point, drama, hook, go, 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 almost all the way up until like there's a lull between like the pinch point and the Dark Night of the Soul and like the actual climax. I probably could have put it down then, but at that point I was like, there's only like 60 pages left. I may as well just fucking read it. I put the book down. I'm glad that I read it, and I did say yesterday that I had hoped to finish it this weekend, but then I was like, it's 12:15 and I still haven't walked, and I was super tired. I still had a whole 24-ounce bottle to drink, and I was like, I can take another cheat day and be my 3rd in 1 week, or I could suck it up and I could just do it. I could just get it over with and do it. And if I do it, I'll be really proud of myself. So you know what? I did it. I got on the walking pad. I needed like 36, 37 minutes of walking to get 5,000 because I was, sitting around all day. And so it was close to 1 o'clock, but I finished. And then I woke up this morning with just absolute dread and horror in my stomach because I forgot to do any sort of video editing yesterday. Just straight up Taylor Swift style. I forgot that you existed. So now I have to use a 3rd cheat day for yesterday if I don't want to reset, which I don't. I don't want to reset before my cheat days are used up because that feels like cheating in its own right. And I didn't get my homework done. So a little bit of a disaster. Thanks, Leigh Bardugo. I blame you for this. I'm sending you the bill for my trauma. It is what it is. There's no going back now. I cannot rewind the clock. What pisses me off is I had time. And I was sitting at my computer yesterday, but I was playing video games because I was like, haha, I have all this time. I have no plans for the day. It is what it is. The whole point of this is to be setting good habits for myself on which I can build a foundation that I hope my authorial career will be supported by. And I forgot. I just straight up forgot. And that's on me. I can't blame anyone but myself for that. And Leigh Bardugo. What are we going to do? Unfortunately, because of that, today I am in a little bit of a bind. I do have to do my whole last paper. I didn't write a single bit of it yesterday. And that I anticipate is going to take probably 3 to 4 hours. I'm going to say 3 hours because there's 3 criteria. And if I'm spending more than an hour on each of them, then I have done something wrong. I have to write my paper. I have to go pick up the groceries. I've already ordered them. I do need to be doing all my regular Sunday things, washing laundry, painting my nails. I did my video editing already. I did do that at least. I have to walk at some point. Jesus. And then, of course, my big writing. This week has been a little bit of a roller coaster. That's not even true. It's just been a hard week for me, just in truth. And I was really hoping that this weekend would be a nice reset to get back to baseline. And instead, I've kind of gone off the rails even more. But I do think that in a way, like allowing myself to sit in my recliner for 5 hours and finish a book when I have not finished a book since September, I think that's acceptable. I really wish I had remembered to edit my video yesterday, so that would have counted. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. I am going to start drinking my water, and I'm going to sit here and do this paper. I'm not going to be sitting here for 3 hours. I'm probably going to break it up into like 1 hour chunks. My only final thought is that I'm so eager to continue writing. So eager. I'm enjoying this process, and I know I'm only 2 days in, but I'm enjoying it so much. That's the thing about editing for me, is that I can feel it getting better with every deleted probably or almost. Almost is such a crush word for me. I have found just and almost. Almost I think is the worst one, because I find myself wanting to describe an expression or an emotion or a feeling, but I don't want to go all in on it. I just want it to be like a hint of that, a taste of that in the scene. And so I'm hedging it always with almost. And I know that is a problem. You don't want subtlety. You want it to be strong and evocative. And anyway, all that to say, I'm really, really loving this. I cannot wait to be here in 9 hours sitting down for my ladder and getting back into it. I obviously did not finish chapter 2 because I spent so much time on this one section, but at the same time, I am realizing that the time spent is okay because it is actively preparing the book to be its best form by the time I finish. I am going to do another pass, of course, once the whole book is finished. There are certain turns of phrases that I am not searching for. Again, other crutch phrases that I think I'll need to go through and make sure I'm not overusing, but I'm going to save that for the end because those are a little bit harder to pick up on. Can you tell I'm procrastinating? I don't want to do my homework. Let's get to it. I said all of that so confidently, and then I went to go fill my water bottle. I sat back down and I realized I still hadn't done my tarot draw for the day or my journal. I have completely lost the plot, haven't I? Hey y'all, it is now just about 5 o'clock, and honestly, I don't know what I was freaking out about earlier. I knocked out that school assignment in 2 hours instead of the 3 to 4 I was anticipating. Good there. I painted my nails while I was working on it. That's 2 for 2. And then I had about 15 minutes before I needed to pick up the groceries, so I started writing my Substack post for tomorrow. I went and picked up the groceries. I ate lunch. I did a little bit more video editing just because I had a very specific way of how I wanted to put one of them together. I didn't want to forget about it. And yeah, it is now 5 o'clock. Dinner will be in another hour and a half. I've done all of the essential tasks, the things that will actively harm me if I don't do them, which was really just my homework. So what I think I'm going to do right now is I think I'm going to do a 20-minute walk on the walking pad, and then I'll do another 20-minute walk after dinner. I think breaking it up will help me because last night the 35-minute one was exhausting, and I did take a couple of breaks. So I'm gonna get on the walking pad. I'll walk for 20 minutes, and then what I'd like to do is script my video for next week, and then once it gets dark and I can close the window, I'll film it. So that'll probably be after dinner but before I walk again. Once that is filmed and ready to go, then I will in theory be ready to sit down and start my ladder for the day. Does that sound like a plan? I would really, 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 really love to get the second chapter done, and if I do, I will have hit 5,000 words for the weekend, which is pretty good. Most of that, of course, is going to be wrapped up in that first chapter, but anyway, I was having a moment this morning, and I am still pretty unhappy and upset with myself for missing my 90-day hard challenge yesterday. Stupid. Yeah, I'm gonna turn some AuthorTube on, and I'm gonna go ahead and get walking, and we have turned this day around. We have salvaged this day.
Staring out the window, reaching for a North Star, waiting just to wake up from this nightmare where you could be right back in my arms, dancing to the limbo, stuck here in the middle. tell me that it's simple, but I could paint 1,000 different pictures of what is wrong. But if we turn the clocks back a couple times.
Hey y'all, guess who's back? Back again. It is now, unfortunately, much later than I had intended on writing. It is actually almost 10 o'clock. I did come in here after dinner and do my second walk on the walking pad. I did get my 5,000 steps. And then kind of in the middle of the walk, I decided spur of the moment to film a TikTok. And then unfortunately, time just got away from me. I do film and edit my TikToks on my phone just because I have had trouble editing them on my computer. So I just find it easier to edit them on my phone, but it does mean it does take a little bit longer. Once I finished editing it, it was 9:30 and I had sat down to film it at like 8:30. So anyway, it is what it is. The kids don't have school tomorrow because of the holiday, so I can push it a little bit later. I do have 2 more of these to drink, 1 3/4. So I've got to do that anyway. So I'll be here a while. And for once, I'm not mad about it. In fact, I'm really excited. I have been looking forward to sitting down and getting back into the draft all day long. Just because of the time and how slow my editing process has been going, I'm not sure I'll be able to finish chapter 2 tonight. I would like to break 5,000 words. That's only about 1,400 more, like 1,300 more. I think that's probably doable before I have to go to bed. I am not going to yap too much longer or lollygag any further. I'm just going to get straight into it. So let's write a book. All right, y'all. It is almost midnight and I have got to be getting to bed, but despite a really slow start, I am up to 1,825 words. Now, I haven't edited through these real closely just yet, and there does need to be some rewriting, but I think for the most part, I'm going to keep most of this. I did have to get my handy dandy notebook out and do some thinky-thoughting because I wanted to rearrange certain parts of the scene. I know I talked about how there was like a flashback of exposition right in the middle, and I'm changing that. So I just wanted to rearrange some things so that it all kind of flows together. And I think I achieved that nicely, but I'm just tweaking some things. So this next section, like maybe 600 words, maybe 800 words is going to need to be almost totally rewritten because I'm just changing it. Oh my God. Okay, well that was random. For context, we have 2 HVAC units, one for the upstairs and one for the downstairs, but most of our house has super high ceilings, just like our living room, and then like our office goes up to the 2nd floor. And so it took us a while to notice that our downstairs unit wasn't working, and we can only tell when we're in our bedroom because that is the only room in the house that doesn't have like open air access to the upstairs. And it's been like that for like 2-3 months now. Anyway, I was just sitting here talking and then I felt a cold breeze on the back of my neck and I was like, huh. And it was the air coming on. So no idea what's happening with that. I can't even remember what I was saying. I can't remember what I was saying. It can't be that important, can it? I am now over 5,000 words total in the manuscript. I need to do some editing through of the last 800 words of the scene. I haven't copied it all over yet. It's going to be really long. I was hoping to shorten this chapter. I think I ended up making it a little longer. We'll see when I go back through and actually do an actual editing pass to see what I can cut, but I feel better about this iteration of it where it all flows together rather than being interrupted in the middle with some exposition. I am tired. It has been kind of a wild ride of a weekend. I finished my water, I did my walking, I did my tarot, and my video edits. What was the other thing and I read. So I decided to pick up The City We Became next for my physical reads after finishing Ninth House. And I was about like 110 pages in and I like opened it up to the chapter I had left off on, and I feel like I could remember most things about the book and the story and everything, but with N.K. Jemisin specifically, I feel like I need to reread it multiple times to understand what I'm reading, and I just didn't want to be confused. I didn't want to forget who anybody was or anything, so I decided to restart. I'm really glad that I did because I feel like I'm understanding everything much better, and also, I don't know, maybe I'm just in the right mindset. N.K. Jemisin, as most of you probably know, is very, very literary in her writing. And I remember when I read the 5th season for the first time, I needed to read it really slowly and really thoroughly to feel like I understood what was going on. And that's true of this book as well. So going back and starting over with knowing what I had read previously, I feel like, okay, I understand what's going on better, and it's helping immerse me better and faster into the story. That'll be my next physical read that I plan to finish. And I think that's everything. What a wild ride of a weekend. Thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me like the card emoji. I think it's like a deck of cards, but I think this might be the closest we can get to tarot cards for the kind of random method I used of confirming what I already wanted to do. In my next video, I will be talking about 5 things I learned from my second draft. And if you have been keeping up with my vlogs, you know that should be a doozy. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye!